for those of you who are joining me from the first video, the first of the melodic minor videos, we've gone through the first mode of the scale, the second mode of the scale, or sorry, the fourth mode of the scale, and now we're going to briefly talk about the fifth mode of the scale. I think it's a really cool one. It's not one that you're going to find a lot in jazz, honestly. Basically, it would give you this kind of context where you have a major chord, or a major one chord, which would be sort of treated normally, and then you'd get a minor four chord. So it's a neat sounding scale, not exactly a jazz scale, but it's one of the other more practical modes of the melodic minor scale, so I didn't want to go without, at least mentioning that one. What I'm going to do now, we were working with A melodic minor before. I'm going to move us a half step down to A flat melodic minor, because I want to use this scale over a G seventh chord. Okay, so we've got G7, and I'm using a very stripped down voicing for it. I'm just using a root in the bass, and then the flat seventh, skipping a string. I'm not playing anything on my A string, so I'm going 3x3 4 from the low E. And if I was doing an A form fifthless, let's say I do a C7 chord at the same fret there, I'd have 3 2 3 just on the A, D, and G strings. So back to this one, we've got our root, our flat seventh, and our third. And since this doesn't contain a fifth and doesn't contain any sort of extended tones, we can imagine anything's there that we want to be there. And in this case, I'm going to pretend that it's a G7 altered chord, where any extended tone or fifth that was in the chord voicing would be sharp or flat, to give us lots of tension. So like these types of sounds, I resolve to the 1 at the end of that, but yeah, that's the sound of an altered dominant chord. Here's a really crazy one. So I can pretend that that's going on even when it's just this, because there's nothing to contradict those sounds. Now I'm going to play the chord, and I'm just going to run up a melodic minor scale a half step above the chord. So G7, I'm going to use A flat melodic minor. I guess I decided to descend instead, but that's the sound that it has. Now if that's kind of just static, that's going to sound a bit ridiculous, but when that's just kind of moving through a chord progression, I'm going to do a standard 2-5-1 progression. When it's moving through a chord progression, it can sound really musical, because you're getting this kind of semi-tension with the 2 chord, and then when you get to the 5 chord, all of a sudden a lot of tension, and then it all resolves back into C major in a really clean way. So that's the sound that the scale has. So remember, I'm using A flat melodic minor over a G7 chord. So that makes the G sound like the root note. The G would be the 7th note of the A flat melodic minor scale. So that's the 7th mode of your melodic minor scale. I always just think of it as like the first mode of the melodic minor scale, a half step up from the dominant chord, though. I think it's a lot easier to think of it that way. That scale has every single possible altered tone in it. If I think of this A flat melodic minor scale from G, thinking of G as the root, that would make A flat, the flat 9, and then B flat, which I guess we should call A sharp in this case because it's going to serve as the sharp 9. So I've got root, flat 9, sharp 9, third, and then I've got the sharp 4th or sharp 11th, or flat 5 you can call it also, or the sharp 5 or flat 13th, same note, and then the flat 7th. So any possible altered tone that can be added to this G7 chord is all in there in the A flat melodic minor scale. So as long as your dominant chord doesn't contain any of the natural extended tones, like a natural 9, natural 11, natural 13, and as long as it doesn't have a natural 5th in it. It doesn't have to have any 5th in it, really. But if there is a 5th, it's got to be either a flat 5th, which remember can also be a sharp 11, or it can be a sharp 5th, which can also be a flat 13. So I could go G7, flat 13, flat 9, flat 5, flat 9. I used a neighboring tone in there. Anyway, yeah, that 7th mode, it's known as the altered scale. It's also known as the Superlocrian scale, the altered dominant scale, diminished whole tone, which is another one of those stupid sounding contradictory names like minor major 7. But anyway, yeah, it's got a lot of names. Doesn't matter what you call it. I just think of it as the melodic minor scale, a half step above the chord, the dominant chord that I'm playing on. And you heard it in a major context. Let me do it in a minor context. Here's a minor 2-5-1, so I'm doing B minor 7, flat 5. I'm back in A minor now, by the way. E7 altered. In that case, I took that flat 5 from the old chord, left it in place for the E7, so it became a flat 9. So I'm altering the E7. Now, when you're resolving to a minor chord, you need to alter your extended tones, or else it just sounds goofy, like, whoops. It's like, what? Or, yeah, definitely make sure you alter the 5 in minor progressions. So, yeah, I'll kind of start, with the A minor scale as it relates to B minor 7 flat 5. And then I'm gonna, since this is an E7 chord, I'm gonna use my F melodic minor and then A minor. I gotta hurry because I'm running out of time. So, that's basically the sound of the scale, used a half a step above the dominant chord in a minor progression. So that kind of gives you both sounds, and like I said, that's all over the place. Now, of course, we don't always want our 5s to sound that altered when we're in a major key. So there's a couple other scales that get used a lot for that, and those are typically symmetrical scales, and I'll be talking about those and probably in the next lesson. So yeah, thanks for watching. I hope that's useful to you. I've got a book coming out. I've mentioned that before. I've got a book coming out pretty soon. I'm working on it a lot, and that's going to have all this stuff on paper where you can look at it really clearly and stuff, and I'll be keeping you guys posted about that. So thanks for watching. Have a good one. Keep practicing.